One relationship in my very first year of real estate investing has led me to earning $50,000, over $50,000 with just 3 deals. And I'm going to tell you exactly how that was done coming up here on the Fearless Flipping Podcast. If you want financial freedom, time freedom, and want to leave a legacy for generations to come, you probably have heard real estate investing is the place to do that. How do you get started? What do you have to do? When's the right time? If you are looking for those answers, you've come to the right place. My name is Kyle Stanley, and this is Fearless Flipping. My mission is to help you learn this business and conquer real estate investing. Hey, welcome in, guys. This is Kyle Stanley with the Fearless Flipping Podcast. And earlier this week, you heard from Bria Johnson, and she talked about her 5 ways of getting over the insanity or the anxiety of networking. And, you know, it can be such a boring topic, but here we are trying to make this as entertaining as possible and also as informative as possible, because at the end of the day, whether you are a real estate investor or you just own your own business, or if you just want to make an impact in your community, the number one way that is free and only costs your time is to build great relationships. And so I was reflecting on this. And by the way, I am solo entrepreneur or solo podcaster today, no interviewee. So stay with me on this though, because I'm really excited to share with you how I've kind of reverse engineered and figured out, man, how have I closed December and November so strong here in 2019, and it all stems back from one relationship that I started developing about 2 or 3 years ago. So here's what it comes down to is that we have so many different ways to market, right? We've got direct mail, we've got bandit signs, we've got text messaging campaigns, we've got cold calling, we've got door knocking, we've got driving for dollars. There's all these different things, and I tried those things. I didn't try them enough to see if they would be successful. And here's why. Me personally, my business model, my personality, knowing me better than anyone else, I think, I know that if I don't like something, or if I feel like I'm not being able to be genuine, if I feel like I'm having to force it, I'm not the kind of person that is going to keep on going until it feels natural. I'm just going to start looking for other ways. And call it right, call it wrong. I've figured out, though, that my number one strength, even though it is uncomfortable for me most of the time, like if you were there listening to the podcast on Tuesday, I'd much rather be sitting on a couch, eating top ramen or something and watching Netflix, which I do on a pretty regular basis still. But at the end of the day, I have to force myself to go out there and build great relationships. It was something that was taught to me at a very young age from my parents, that you have to look people in the eye, shake their hands, smile, introduce yourself, and act genuinely interested. And at the end of the day, because I was taught that at a very young age, it comes very naturally to me today, but it wasn't something that was natural in the beginning. So here I am being hypocritical as I'm listening to myself. I'm saying I'm not going to keep doing something if it doesn't feel natural. We all have to do things a little bit that are uncomfortable until they become comfortable. But going back to like the direct mail and the door knocking and all that good stuff, here's what I know about that. I want to build a business that is going to allow me freedom. And what does freedom mean? To me, I can make all the money in the world, but if I'm tied to the business as a job, if I don't have systems in place, if I don't have people in place, if I don't have teammates in place that are allowing me to go to the beach and put away my phone and not have to be anxious about what am I missing, then if I don't have those things in place, I'm not going to be happy. I can make $1 million and be tied to my job and be tied to my phone all the time and be miserably unhappy, or I can make $100,000 and be able to travel, be able to live the life that I want. And so for me, here in year one, what I knew I had full control of and was a strength was networking. So I say all that in a roundabout way to bring you back to now December of this year. Here in December and November, I have closed deals that will be making me more in 2 months than I ever made in any other job in an entire year combined. One more time, 2 months, that was essentially 3 deals plus cash flow and Airbnb coming in. that led to earning more in 2 months than I did in any other job or career or business I ever owned in an entire year of doing that thing. Okay. That's the power of real estate. So then it got me thinking, okay, we just talked about networking. Networking is my number one thing. Where did these deals really come from? So I want to walk you through this. If you're listening on the podcast, keep listening. I'm going to paint as good of a picture as possible. But if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you're going to see some of these things that are connected. And I want you to be able to see exactly how I've reverse engineered into learning that it all came from one relationship. So first of all, we just closed on a deal on Lyle Avenue here in Fresno, which made me my biggest check yet, which is awesome. And it was $28,000. So that's after expenses and everything. So, that's for those of you that flip full time and are doing this regularly, you're like, okay, 28,000, that's like a pretty average check or maybe a higher end check. But for me, that's like, holy cow, that's the biggest check I've ever had. So reverse engineer that. I got that from a wholesaler. That wholesaler, his name is Stratton Brown. He's here in town. He actually is in the same office as me. But Stratton and I started developing our relationship back in February when I first met him. Now, Stratton runs a meetup team or a meetup group. And in that meetup group, he has a lot of people that are approaching him and asking him, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? And being in a position where I've had that happen, and now I'm getting that a lot with Airbnb, you get really worn down by all these people who just want to rob you of your time and take your time and ask you questions and have zero intent of actually moving on it. They just think that by learning, they're doing something, and they're not. So my first thing to be able to get into a great relationship with Stratton was to add value to him. How did I do that? I asked him to come on to my podcast, my YouTube channel, share his knowledge, and hopefully it would bring him some business. It made me different. That allowed me to build a relationship with Stratton, which allowed me to eventually have this deal at Lyle. He got me on his top, list there of people that he was sharing his deals with. And it all happened because of the podcast. Now, why in the world did I start the podcast? Well, it wasn't an idea that I had. It was actually an idea that my mentor had, John Bustamante. John and I are sitting down at lunch one day. This was back in, I want to say, April or May. I had just completed my first deal. And he was like, Kyle, you gotta document this stuff. You gotta show people the before and afters. Like, you're a former sports anchor. You gotta make a YouTube channel. And I was like, nah, and I kicked it around for a little bit. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, why am I saying to my mentor? I've got to do this. And so John was the reason that I got this idea to start a podcast and YouTube channel. Now, how did I meet John? Okay, we're continuing to reverse engineer. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, I'm going to repeat it one more time. We got this Lyle deal from Stratton, who had a meetup group. He was on my podcast. That's where I added value, which got me onto this list. I created the podcast because of John. John was the one that encouraged me to make the podcast and YouTube channel. And how did I meet John? I met John through a contractor named Frank. And Frank had basically, right as soon as I called him to do my first deal with him, he said, you got to meet my friend John. John does a lot of flips in town. So Frank, my contractor, led me to my mentor. And where did I meet Frank from? I met Frank from Albert. Albert has been a good friend of mine for 2 years. And I brought Albert to a Fortune Builders event. It was absolutely free. Brought him because I thought he'd be interested and I wanted to add value as he's a mortgage lender. And I figured the more he knows about real estate and investing and everything, the more it can help him and help him to provide more information to his clients. So Albert was the one that led me to Frank, that led me to John, which led me to the podcast, which led me to Stratton, which led me to my deal to Lyle, which led me to my biggest check yet, which was just under $30,000. Okay. Here we go. That's number one. The second deal was Dunn Avenue. Now there were two deals on Dunn Avenue. Number one was a house and next door was a lot. Now this lot, we're going to start, again, we're reverse engineering here. This lot made me $9,000. It was a wholesale that we did. How did I get the opportunity to wholesale this? Well, while we were renovating the house right next door, we had a situation in the lot where it was disgusting. It was packed with, just everything you can think of, homeless people, trash, the whole 9 yards. So in order to clean this thing up, to get more value out of the house that I was renovating, I got in contact with the seller, or the owner, who became the seller because he said, I'd rather just sell it to you. I found the buyer, I found the seller, I wholesaled it. It all happened because I got this deal at Dunn Avenue, which was the house we were renovating. We ended up selling the house. I made $17,500. So here we go. Made 28 from Lyle, made 9 from the Dunn lot, made 17.5 from the Dunn house. That's a total of just under $55,000. 3 deals, all coming from one source. Let's reverse engineer. I got the deal from Matt Garabedian. He's a local wholesaler. I was on his mailing list. If you're on the mailing list, you're part of hundreds of people. You're basically out there trying to outbid someone or be the first one to call. Well, Matt had just been on my podcast. So because Matt was just on my podcast, when I picked up the phone, I had already provided some value to him. Not only did I get him on the podcast, but many of you who listen to the podcast and the YouTube channel see that we also promote Matt's course, which is a great one. If you're not on there, make sure that you're going to our show notes, which every single, not show notes, our YouTube description down below, every single one has the wholesaling course. It's amazing. It's under $200. It's a great course. I told Matt, I'm going to sell that for you on the podcast. So when we do that, I'm adding value. I'm adding value. So when I pick up the phone and say, hey, I saw this deal on Dunn Avenue, I'm interested, Matt was able to drive out there with me, which, by the way, he told me, he's like, I don't drive out with people to deals. So he respected me enough to want to go to the deal with me, which he never does. And then he even respected me even more when I said, hey, I can't make these numbers work. And he said, well, where can you make the numbers work? We talked about it, and he was able to give me a great deal that allowed me to make this happen. So it all happened because it started with adding value through the podcast. And if you remember, the podcast came from John, which came from Frank, which came from Albert. Okay, so at the end of the day, like, I need to buy Albert a really great Christmas present. And he's probably listening and watching this like, wow, I didn't know I was going to be the topic of a show. So I really want you to get this idea that people are your biggest asset. Relationships are your biggest asset. I know you've heard this before. I know how boring that is to hear. And I know you've heard about the golden rule. And I know how you've heard about, oh, they got a network. But guys, here's the thing. Like, this is living proof that if you just stop and you're linear with your relationships, meaning you're just meeting one person to the next person, to the next person, the next person, and you're never trying to dig down deep and build a relationship so that you are the number one person they think of when someone says Airbnb. You're the number one person they think of when they say need to sell a house. You're the number one person they think of when, anything real estate related. You got to be that number one person. And because I created a great relationship with Albert and told him, I'm doing this thing, I want you to come here with me, I want you to learn. What happened? He said, I know a great contractor. If you're serious about doing this, I know a great contractor. He went to high school with me. You got to call him. Frank saw I was serious. I told him to get on my first job. I added value to him. He said, I can tell you're serious. I need you to meet John. John straight up said, I help a lot of people. I'm really short on time, but if you're serious about this, let me know. And I told him, I'll take you to lunch. I'll do anything it takes to pick your brain. But I didn't just pick his brain. I've taken the time to try, and even though it's really difficult, like, I think that's the number one thing here that everyone needs to realize is that it's scary to think, hey, I've got to add value to someone who's been in this business for how long? Like, what am I going to add to a John Bustamante who's closing like over 100 deals a year and is making crazy good money? And here I am, like, I just started my first deal and I've got no experience. Like, what am I going to do to add value? Well, I just told him, I was like, I'm ready to learn. I'm not going to waste your time. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. And then I just want to buy you lunch. Like, let me buy you lunch. Let me buy you coffee. Let me just continue to do that to show you I'm serious. And now it's gotten to the point where he's interested in Airbnb. You better believe that when he gets his first Airbnb, I'm not going to be charging him for his time, for my time to help him with an Airbnb. I'm going to give that to him for free. It's one of those things that we add value to people. We can't keep adding value, and we can't stop adding value and expect to keep on getting value back. Okay, so every single time with these people, with anyone who is showing me that they want to help me, it's because I've shown them that I'm serious. And then it's this cycle of continuing to add value to each other. I hope you're grabbing that. So, then because I met John, it gave me the courage to start this podcast, start the YouTube channel, which has led me to great relationships. And guys, I got to tell you, like, the number one thing I want out of this podcast and YouTube channel is to help you and help you learn and understand. But, selfishly, at the end of the day, it's been the number one way for me to develop relationships. Like, if you're sitting here wondering, how do I network? How do I get better at meeting people? Force yourself to start something like a podcast. Force yourself to do something. Maybe it's a blog. Maybe it's just sitting down and interviewing someone for your blog because you don't want to be on camera. You don't want to be behind a mic. You can do this in today's world. Maybe it's just Instagram. Like, hey, if I ask you one question and you just put like a little video together and I can post it on Instagram so that my followers can see what kind of advice you have. Any sort of way that you can put yourself up, not on a pedestal. What's the word I'm looking for? It's really positioning yourself as a different authority in your market. And so for me, I want to help everyone that's listening and watching this podcast and YouTube channel, but I want to learn faster. I want to build great relationships. And I've already seen the fruits of my labor coming to fruition here at the end of 2019, because all of these deals came from the podcast and the YouTube channel because I was different in my market. And I wouldn't have started this had I not met John, had I not met Frank, had I not developed a relationship with Albert. So again, I know that you're probably sitting there thinking like, Kyle, but you're good on camera. You're good, behind a mic. You did this as a profession. Throw that out the window. You don't have to be me. Don't try to do what I'm doing. Try to do what you do well. If you do something really well, like, guys, I was doing Airbnb for 4.5 years before I realized that I can add value to other people with this Airbnb thing. So it took me a while to figure out what was going to make me different to add value to people. And at first I thought it was just the YouTube channel and podcast, but now my knowledge of Airbnb is helping so many people and making me different. And now I've got a guy who's one of the top wholesalers, not just in California, but maybe even the US, called me up today and said, Kyle, I want to fly up to Fresno and I want you to take me around all your Airbnbs for a day. And I just want to pick your brain and I want to learn about Airbnb. Like, this guy is a freaking multimillionaire. He's been on our show. He's doing tons of deals and he wants me to help him. Like, how, if that's not a moment of like, wow, this is super cool. Like, nothing would be. That was one of those moments I was just like, I have found a way to add value to other people that was different than other people, at least in my market. And that in itself is leading me to more deals. So I'm not going to charge this guy when he comes down here. I'm just hoping that by building a great relationship, the world and the karma and God is going to bring that back to me in a positive way. And so it's the thought of unconditional giving and adding value to people, but being very particular with who those people are. Okay, that's the little twist there. There's so many people that you can get stuck helping that aren't serious. So in the beginning, it's, I want to follow the leader. And they're looking at you saying, are you going to waste my time? And then when you keep on getting better and better and better, and you prove that you're good enough for that mentor, and now you start duplicating, you start having success, now suddenly you're here and there's other people that are coming and saying, hey, can I pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? And now you got to really look at who is serious. And you go through those same methods of, all right, you're going to buy me coffee? Cool. I'll give you a list of 10 things to do. You didn't do them? Okay, you're probably not very serious. So on to the next. So anyway, that's a whole other topic in itself. But I hope that when you look at this, you can identify who is that person right now in my life that maybe they're not even in real estate. Albert is in real estate, but he's not a real estate investor. He's a mortgage lender. And I just honestly, and that wasn't even the goal, was to develop a relationship with the guy so that I could get something from him. It was an unconditional friendship that, because we created a great relationship, we were adding value to each other. Eventually, he thought of me when he knew someone that could help me, and it just continued from there. So who are those people in your life you have great relationships with that may not be in the same line of work as you, but might know someone that can help you to get to where you want to go? So I want to give you just a couple bits of advice here, and then comment on this video if you're on the YouTube channel, or send me an email, kyle@fearlessflipping.com. I want to know if this gets you results. Go to your inner circle. So number one, go to your inner circle and ask the people in your inner circle. That should be no more than 10 people. Hey, I'm starting a real estate investing business. Hey, I'm in real estate investing. You know that, and I'm trying to take it to the next level. And identify who's the one missing teammate that you need right now more than anything. Is it a private lender? Is it a contractor? Is it a wholesaler? Is it list of cash buyers? What does that look like for you? Go to your inner circle and say, hey, I don't know if you know anyone like this. We've been friends for years. You've been my cousin for as long as I've lived. But who do you know? I'm really trying to start this real estate investing business. The number one thing I know I've got to have is a contractor. Do you know anyone that would know someone that would be a really good contractor? And see what happens. Okay, that's the first thing. Ask. Do the ask to your inner circle. Your second one is, I found my manager in Airbnb through Facebook, through social media. And all I did was I just threw an ask out there to the world saying, hey, here's what I am looking for. Does anyone know of someone that fits the bill for this? And I got like 5 or 6 messages right away, and it led to, within hours, me hiring my manager for Airbnb. And that has been the biggest payoff, just by sharing with the world what I was looking for. Now, I just kind of came up with these off the top of my head, so I'm trying to think if there's any other challenges or tips or advice that I want to give you. But really, so inner circle, ask, social media, and let's just keep it there. If you've got other ways that would be a great way to get to that next teammate, to that next person through networking. Okay, I don't want to hear about your text messaging, your direct mail, all that stuff. I want to hear about networking based types of ways to find that next teammate that is missing on your team. Can you do me a favor? Can you comment below on the YouTube channel? Or again, if you're more of a podcast person, email me, kyle@fearlessflipping.com. If you email me or comment, we are going to mention you on the show as a thank you for engaging and for sharing your knowledge to help other people conquer real estate investing. So at the end of the day, I'm going to just encourage everyone, either reverse engineer and be thankful for that person. Go to that person and say, you know what, I did not realize this, but I did this kind of business this year because of you, and I want to thank you for that. Or identify who that person can possibly be by going straight to them and asking them, how can I add more value to you? Because I would really love to do that. And if at the end of the day, all you do is ever think of me as being the real estate person, when someone says, hey, I'm looking to get into real estate, or hey, I'm looking to partner with someone in real estate, that you think of me first. Okay. So I hope this helped you today to conquer real estate investing. Go out, have a great rest of your holidays. We'll be hitting up another podcast and YouTube video here before the end of the holiday, or before Christmas hits. But get all your shopping done and have a Merry Christmas. Ask Santa for a real estate deal.